some issues in this section. So I just wanted to say that to make everybody aware.
And I know I heard in an earlier meeting an issue of mold in the police department. I mean, that to me is just, should be a quick fix. You know, we need to get somebody over there and address that. They should not be working in an environment where there's mold. That's hazardous to, you know, them trying to do their job. It would be hazardous to anyone that visits the police department. So we definitely need to take some quick steps to address. It seemed like I read something about there was a crack in the wall and that there was mold and that the toilets weren't working and that officers had to go to other locations to use the bathroom. I mean, that to me is just amazing. To not be able to drink water in the building, to have to bring bottled water. I mean, you know, that is just amazing to hear. And I would just suggest that those items, like Commissioner Lumpkin mentioned, relative to the building, you know, we need to address that very quickly. This board has already acted from a financial standpoint in terms of our officers' salaries and starting salaries and stuff like that. So that's done for now. But issues like buildings, you know, we can talk about the equipment down the road and try to make sure that in our upcoming budget that we address some of those things. But health safety issues with our officers, that needs to happen yesterday. There should be no issues about mold. There should be no issues about a toilet working, and things like that.
And I seem to recall that we were told that some of that stuff had been fixed.
I remember we had an earlier meeting.
But I'm sure there's issues. I'm not saying everything's fixed, but over somebody saying hot water issues fixed. I'm not sure.
It's been repaired.
Okay.
And didn't cut trees help with the mold?
Yes, they did. That was several years ago. But I just want,
What are they?
may I make a comment, please?
Yes, please.
I was recently privy to a 1994 study that was conducted for the structural integrity of the police department in 1994, and it was ignored. For $200,000, that building could have been repaired, which may very well would have helped with our current mold issue and some of the other issues as far as the separation of wall and floor. It didn't have been taken care of in 1994. I don't know who chose to ignore it during that time frame, but that report is available and it's here in this building if anybody would like to see it. And if I could say something else, and I think I speak for every department head, and if I'm wrong, Tina, Melissa, Cheryl, Amy, Steve, let me know. I'll speak for my last 3 years since I came back from retirement. When we have an issue or we have a request for equipment, any type of need for all of our departments, we directed those needs to the city manager. And what the city manager chose to do with it was up to the city manager. We were not to report to board members. We were to report to our direct supervisor, which was the city manager. January 28th, 2021, prior to my retirement, this letter was written to the city manager for the board members. If he chose not to give it to the board members, I can't control that. I said, we cannot control it. But we will report it to the city manager as department heads. Am I incorrect?
We don't vote whether we buy gas masks or stuff. We do the budget.
That's correct.
We need to think about that.
If I could, then if things like that happen, then it is the city manager's fault for it. Doesn't matter who it was or how long ago it was. And the reason why that's the case is under the statute, the North Carolina statute, Oxford manager form of government. And the department heads by law have to report to the city manager. And I don't know if the department gets here or not. And so you have to be careful as to who to hold responsible. And I'm the city manager. You hold the city manager.
Well, none of that was directed at you, Mr.
Oh,
Mayor. We
I'm not saying that
appreciate
it
you
was.
being
I was just, for the people that are here, to understand what the form of government is, and that it's dictated by state statute. It's not dictated by the board. It's in the charter, and it's state statute. And so, the reason I brought it up is you should hold the city manager responsible.
Go ahead. So, again, my desire is to see us begin to fix the culture. And that culture, it exists, it does exist. Calling for this meeting, I was asked twice not to do it. To make the motion during our last agenda meeting that we have some type of presentation. Now, I understand the thought process potentially behind that. This is a very raw report. This isn't, again, this is not an I gotcha. This is a how do we fix it. When I wrote my dear colleague letter to you guys in October, where I addressed our former city manager, it wasn't to shame or upset or try to, it's pointing out that we have a cultural issue that needs to be addressed. It's looking in the mirror and saying there is a problem and we need to move forward, we need to fix it. I strongly believe that information was likely, or I would say I almost guarantee information was coming from department heads to our former city manager and managers, probably beyond that never made it to the board. For whatever reason. I'm not saying it's nefarious, I'm not saying there wasn't a reason for those discussions. Not my purview to go back in time and try to assess why something did or did not take place. What I want to be able to see is for us to break that culture, have clear communication. Because Mr. Lumpkin's point, we're not deciding on gas masks, not deciding on individual equipment or individual pay. We are deciding on a budget that the city has to operate under. And each department head is responsible for their segment of the budget, making sure that they can operate within the confines of that budget. If they cannot, they can come back and ask for an appropriation. Right? It's a seemingly simple process. But over time, again, for reasons that I frankly don't care why it happened, it happened. There are deficiencies along the way, we can address that. But before we address, or as we address equipment issues and pay issues and so forth, we have to address the culture issues. We have to let department heads be department heads. They have to have that information disseminated to the board if there are needs along the way. If there are, there are. And we could figure it out. That's the purpose.
Well, I think the unfortunate thing is, as I sit here, I'm thinking, the person who would have been filtered that information is not here and can't speak for himself. I mean, we got an interim manager now. Our former city manager finished up a month or two ago. And so, to kind of, in a sense, put on him that the reason that the police department is in the shape it's in is because we weren't informed of what was going on. Now, and he can't respond to that. And all I'm saying is, when we go through the budget process, we are feeling like the manager is giving us information that he's hearing from the department heads that's helping us make decisions on how much money goes where. And again, the police department has always been a priority during the budget process. We try to provide their equipment they need when we're told that we bought new cars. I know we bought body cams and stuff like, and a whole bunch of police equipment that I was under the impression was what was needed and, what we needed to consider in our budget. And the unfortunate thing is that with this, the person that we're, saying we didn't give us the information is not here. And that, you know, is not a comfortable, situation for me, because he can't respond to why he did or did not, reflect what he was being told by department heads in the budget meeting. I just think I think, you know, I know you wanna make it, well, let's just go from here, and let's just do what we need to do, take the steps we need to do to straighten out things. That may be true, but I want to know why we get to this point. Because I don't want it to happen again. And we're getting ready to select a new city manager. And I think during the interview process, we better make clear to our city manager that we don't want that to happen again. Because, you know, but I'd like to be quite frank with you, I wish we had the city manager, the former city manager here, so he could respond to me. Because I think it's to some extent unfair to him to not be here and for these accusations to be floating around that somehow it's his fault that we are at this position.
Going back, kind of what Ron said, I think it is important to figure out how we got here and how not to get here again. But, we also, I just don't want to play the blame game. And also, we need to look at this from the details, but also with the 50,000-foot view of, how we move forward and to this to get to where it is now and, just improve.
As I have said time and time and being on the board, a lot of the things that we are facing today were neglected. But it's no need us to sit here and beat that drum. It's where do we go from today? What our former city manager did and did not forward to us, we can't do anything about today. It's where we go forward from today. A lot of things in here we have worked on. You mentioned about the banquet in Creedmoor, Crime Stoppers. I think when I was informed of the date it was a conflict, it wasn't because I did not care to be there to support our police. I think this is the first year I didn't show up, but the date and time. So a lot of times when we're not present, it's not because we're dissing any entity, any department, it's because we do have other things that come up. But that's why I'm here to say, we've got to correct what we can and go forward and not have to get to this again. And
All right, where do we go from here?
I just want to agree with Mayor President. We've learned a lot of lessons. We've still got more to do. We're moving forward. Let's move forward. I understand the chief's frustration about the building. I've got photographs in my phone that I took 5 years ago, cracked walls, mold, and I did bring it to the city manager's attention. I know we don't want to diss him, but I brought it to his attention and nothing was done about it. And it's frustrating. It's frustrating for them, it's frustrating for me. And it's frustrating when we don't know what's going on and all of a sudden all hell breaks loose because, And it is frustrating. But let's move forward.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, my stay here isn't going to be a short stay. Depending on when the new city manager comes on board. I'm here through the end of June. But what I was gonna say, moving forward, we're in the midst of a budgetary process right now. The board has its, a budget committee will be meeting with in the next, 2 to 3 weeks. We got 2 workshops with the board, April 18th and April 25th. And I think the department heads will agree that we've been addressing what our CIP needs are, called our capital improvement plan. And we've been doing it as a group. And, so I would like to say to the board members that are here and to the public that's here, this is not something that you just, the next meeting say, we're gonna fix it. This is a budgetary process. And so we're looking to put it in the fiscal year 23-24 budget. And we gotta take time to put that together. And we're looking to have a public hearing in May on the budget, and looking to have the budget ordinance adopted in June. And you say, well, June, well, by the way, this is the middle of March. That's 3 months. So I want to assure the board and the public that we're working to put together a realistic budget that addresses some, if not all, the things that's in the report. And we can also address a timeline for doing things, and we have done that. We've talked about, well, we can't do everything at one time. We can put all the AMI meters in 1 year. Just throwing out an example from public works. So we're gonna put together something that moving forward starts to address these things. And I hope that helps people understand that we are taking the right steps.
All right. Can we just go ahead and start with the building issue?
We've already started with building issues. We fixed all, we spent how much on fixing the windows, Steve?
Like put all brand new windows in the PD, repipe the water system,
Oh,
wrap
okay.
all the HVAC pipes. I mean,
Alright.
we're moving along.
The moment I saw those, I said, we need to do that.
That goes to show that some things are ongoing.
Yeah, they are.
Progress is being made, but progress does not come overnight. It does not come overnight. Because in considering the budget, we gotta consider all of our constituents, the city, all the taxpayers, because we gotta consider all of our department heads. For the last year or so, I know the other departments have gotten the feeling of they just care about the police. Because that's human instinct. Because very little is being said about recreation or any, it's everything is the police. No, it is not. No, it is not. Everything is about all of our employees. All of them.
Commissioner Briggs got this. Is there a community input on this?
Yeah, is there questions from the
Oh,
audience?
we're gonna be able to engage this?
Yeah, look, if you have a comment,